very quickly. UFC 323. I saw you gave this card a B+, Luke.
Yeah.
How are we feeling about that grade? Do you want to change it? I feel like, I don't know.
No.
Is that a little too high, B+?
No, that's a perfect score. I mean,
sell me on the B+ here.
I could see as low as B because I don't really care about Blachowicz versus Guskov, speaking honestly. Blachowicz is kind of old, and I don't really know if Guskov's got a title winning future, I would say, is maybe the nicest way I can put that. However, everything else on that fucking main card rips. Dude, you've got the second best flyweight of all time and the very best bantamweight of all time in your respective co-main and main. The guy who is in the main event, if he wasn't even fighting this weekend, would probably have Fighter of the Year wrapped up, although I understand Islam moving up and beating JDM kind of changes that to a degree. But nevertheless, he has in a calendar year already beaten Umar Nurmagomedov, finished Sean O'Malley, and then nearly finished, but certainly dominated Corey Sandhagen. Here is Petr Yan, a former champion, coming back for a second shot. So now he's making, if he wins, 2 fights in a calendar year, both over former champions, both over former foes. I mean, this fucking guy is doing, this would be, if he wins this one, literally one of the most impressive single year calendar campaigns in the fucking history of the sport. And people have the balls to be like, oh, I don't think this event is so great. Yeah, because you're a fucking casual. Not you, sir, but that's Dennis, okay. But the donks out there. I can understand that there are criticisms to make of Merab. I have made them. I have accused him of stalling numerous times. Newsflash, he'll stall. It's a problem. And I also get that, like, you know, there might be individual pieces of his game that don't necessarily strike you and you have an emotional response to. I understand that. Like, he doesn't have like a beautiful game, you know, in certain ways that like Josh Van does, you know, with his combination punching or something like that. Nevertheless, you're just looking at one of the very best to ever do it. I don't think that that's terrible. He tried 50 fucking takedowns on this guy the first time. I don't know. That seems kind of important if you actually like, if what you really like is high level fighting. That's just me speaking out loud. In your co-main event, Josh Van having one of the most impressive contender runs in the history of this division, actually in really all of UFC history in terms of the speed to which he has ascended to this moment, not without some flaws, obviously losing in the third round against Charles Johnson a few years ago or whatever it was, 2 years ago at this point, maybe even less than that because the guy's fought so fucking often, but, you know, relatively recently, but has been on a heater basically ever since that Brandon Royval fight was proof of concept. Here's the fun part about Van. He's going up against, as I mentioned, the second best flyweight of all time, who is a absolute submission and position hunter, never a staller. This guy is always looking for the kill. And Josh Van, by the way, what's interesting about him is not just the story that I mentioned before and how well his boxing looks and sitting in the pocket and everything else, but dude, he's not hard to hit. He gets hit a lot. Like, he's in the mix in these fights. He just tends to be the guy who does the cleaner work, you know, by the time the fight's over or something like that. But he's there to get hit. He gives and takes the whole way. A fresh challenge, by the way, for that guy in the co-main event. Like, I'm not saying this is the very best the UFC has to offer. I'm not saying it's the most that you have to like. It's really not my point. People will like what they like at the end of the day. But if what you say you like is high-level MMA, this card's got the goods. Oh, Peyton Talbot, Henry Cejudo, that fight's weird as shit, but I love it for all the reasons that I've already talked about. And what's the third one? The fourth one I'm missing. What's the other one I'm missing?
You're missing the Brendan Moreno fight.
Oh, and Tetsuya Taira. I mean, dude, this is, you know, the little guys are, for the most part, just running the show here. This is, to me, one of the more exciting, if not the most exciting kind of end, so to speak, of MMA. It's not going to be for everybody. It's certainly not going to do, I think, gangbusters at the box office. I'm not blind to it. But I'm just speaking to a narrow portion of the audience. For people who are serious, I like high-level MMA. It's impossible to not appreciate this, period.
Yeah, 2 great champions in Merab and Pantoja. How often do you get a chance to say that when you break down a UFC card? Just quickly on that Petr Yan Merab fight, both guys were compromised. We know that. Yan spoke about how he couldn't use one hand. Merab was basically half of his body was whatever mangled going into that fight. How different do you think this rematch looks with the newfound confidence that Merab has in certain parts of his skill set, now being a defending champion, but also Petr Yan not being, you know, injured and being able to use both hands in this fight? Do you imagine it looks much different?
Maybe a more competitive version of what it was last time. You know, maybe it's a little slower in certain ways. Maybe it takes a little longer for Merab to take over, but I just can't pick against Merab until somebody beats him outright. You know what I mean? Like, I just feel like if you've got unlimited cardio, very good wrestling, surprisingly good judo, very good defensive wrestling yourself, very good ability to find the back and to mat return guys and then start offensive cycles, and you've already had 25 minutes with the previous opponent, like, I'll believe that. I'm not saying Jan can't win. He's dangerous, right? Jan is not some scrub. He's here by no accident, but I'll believe that he can win when he actually does it first.
We were talking about this Joshua Van fight. I think one of the impressive things about Pantoja here is he's got everything to lose, right? He's fighting a guy. I think if Van goes out here, gets beaten by Pantoja, that he's still at the start of his career. This doesn't do that much damage to him. But Pantoja, man, everything's on the line against this young killer. I guess we're expecting Pantoja to go out here and dominate. But yeah, he's kind of got everything to lose going into this fight, right?
He's the champion. You got to defend that belt. This is the guy. I mean, this is what being champion means. Every fight, I'm sure Volk would tell you the same thing. Every subsequent fight is just so absolutely critical for your legacy. I mean, there's going to be rare exceptions to that, but once you achieve this status and you're in bouts like this and you're putting together win streaks like these guys are putting together, they're all enormously consequential. There's simply no two ways about it. And he has to do it. Like, to me, it's almost an immaterial question. Like, he has to fight this guy. So I think it's a fresh matchup. And I think the fun part for the fans, and I mean this generally, is I'm not saying that a guy like Josh Van has poor defense. I think they'd be overstating it. But he puts himself standing in positions to get hit. And I think the stat, by the way, let me just double check that, because I don't want to, I guarantee you the stats speak to that. So Josh Van strikes absorbed per minute, 6.36. Dude, that's high as shit. That's absorbing. That's what he eats. He lands at 8.86. You know what I mean? Like, he's gonna, and then, by the way, we all know Pantoja will trade with you. He's got some pretty, respectable striking. He's also going to chase the back.
It's a predator.
You know what I mean? Josh Van gets taken down, but then he pops right back up immediately. That's been the thing. Can he do that against a grappler this skilled? Like, that fight, I don't know how the main event's going to be in terms of entertaining. It'll probably be fine. I would just be shocked if the co-main's not, unless it ends like very quickly or something. I would just be shocked if it wasn't.
Yeah, Josh Van as well, 24 years old too. How crazy is that in this massive opportunity? So there's part of the narrative going here as well. Are you a fan of the idea of Pantoja and Merab potentially fighting each other if they do run out of opponents, or if they want to do one of these kind of supery fights? Because Pantoja doesn't really have that many guys left in his division to fight. Merab does, but it's not like he can go up and fight Volkanovski, because I don't think that fight would ever happen.
I don't hate the idea. To me, Merab going to Volk is a better one, but it sounds like Volk might be done, so I don't know if you're going to get that. I don't hate the idea. It's just feels to me like some super fights are a little bit more important than others, and I don't know if that one like needs to get made, but I wouldn't cry necessarily if they made it. Yeah.
Let's just quickly finish up about talking. And by the way, we've got Edson Barboza on the early prelims. He's taken on Jalen Turner, who's returning. I feel like that fight's hard done by. That's going to be a very interesting fight. Where's Jalen Turner? We've got Vettori on the early prelims as well. Like, this is a very, very interestingly built out card. But Henry Cejudo here, right? One of the great champions in the UFC, 38 years old, now taking on Peyton Talbot in his last fight, in his retirement fight, I guess this is going to be. What is your reaction to this funky fight potentially being the last fight for Henry Cejudo here? I mean, he's had an incredible run. It's just interesting to see that potentially this is how it's all going to end.
He botched it. I don't think there's any way to say it otherwise. I mean, he achieved. I mean, we should start with that. He achieved enormously. Yeah. So that's really the most important legacy. But the reality is there is another part of the story, which is that he kind of, he too quickly ended the prime of his career, or at a bare minimum, too quickly took a hiatus during the prime of his career. And I don't think his career ever really recovered. He obviously had some bright moments since then to a degree, but it's just never really recovered. And the Song Yadong fight, he was losing pretty much before the eye poke kind of, I'm not going to say saved him, but it made the circumstances about how that fight ended unfair. And so that by itself gave him a little bit of life. But, he gave up 3 good years of what he had at the top, unfortunately. I don't know if he wouldn't have won all those fights, but he probably would have won a bunch. And here we are at the end of his career. And I think he's just trying to salvage what's left. And it might be too little too late. Peyton Talbot, not by any means completely proven to me. He did poorly against Raoni Barcelos and then rebounded in his last contest. And that was a Felipe Lima he fought. But Felipe Lima is no Henry Cejudo. Henry Cejudo still has very, very good inside-outside trips. So he has the best inside trip in MMA, period. It's even better than Islam's. It's really, really good. And, so like there's ways in which I think Peyton could get tested. But it just seems to me like the UFC is looking at this and being like, here's this young guy in Peyton Talbot who's weird and irreverent and gets New York Times profile write-ups. Let's put some energy into him by feeding this aging, fading figure to him on the way out. And plus, we don't really know exactly if Peyton Talbot is the goods. It was, like I mentioned, a great rebound against Lima, but, there's still a lot that tested. And Cejudo seems sufficiently diminished where you might get a decent answer plus a transference of star power to a degree. So the matchmaking to me makes plenty of sense.
All right, guys, I want to thank some sponsors. First up, Manscaped. Of course, the holidays are here, which means it's time to give the gift of smoothness. And Manscaped is your place to go for all the smooth tools that you could imagine. Right now, Manscaped's Performance Package 5.0 Ultra is the perfect gift for yourself this Christmas holiday or this festive holiday or that special person in your life. You guys have the Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra groin and body hair trimmer. Also have the Weed Whacker 3.0 ear, nose, and eyebrow trimmer. This thing is a must-have. You get the Bowl Aftercare, including the Crop Soother, the Bowl Aftershave Lotion, the Crop Preserver, anti-chafing bowl deodorant will keep you fresh, comfortable. Boxers 2.0 and the Shed 2.0 toiletry bag. And by the way, I wear the boxers all the time. They're so, so comfortable. And I still use my original toiletry bag whenever I travel, everywhere I go. It's an absolute must-have. You put all your stuff in there. So jump on Manscaped right now. Use the code with submission. Support this program. Get 15% off and free shipping now. Hurry, because the festive season is here and Manscaped has you sorted. I talk to you guys about my friends at NordVPN that have you sorted with the best VPN going into next year. You want to watch Netflix from around the world. You want to get the cheaper flights, the better deals on all your different passes, subscription services, access to sporting events for free without having to pay locally for them. NordVPN has you sorted. Right now, if you go to nordvpn.com/submission or click the link in the description below, you get extra 4 months for free on the 2-year plan. Also, don't forget, Nord's got a 30-day money-back guarantee, but I'll guarantee this for you. You guys won't regret it because NordVPN has the best app in the game. That's right. For a VPN, you quickly choose your location, where you want to do it from. Boom. And it's done very, very easily. Of course, you get the extra security protection for free with your NordVPN deal. But also, don't forget, VPNs are essential right now. You got people stealing your information online. They're following everywhere you go. They're taking your credit card information. All of that stuff that you have to then reset all your passwords, get a new credit card, have to worry about who's snooping on you when you connect to public Wi-Fi. Have your NordVPN on, have yourself protected, and have access to all of the best content around the world without having to subscribe to about 5 different platforms, 5 different places, or not be able to watch the content that you want to watch from America or different parts of the world as we're in the NBA season, fighting season, and all sorts of other seasons kicking off next year as well. NordVPN is a VPN for you. Jump on right now. Get this exclusive deal. This is the last month that it's available. Jump on before you miss out and also support this program. And then finally, speaking of supporting this program, our friends Saily are back on board. And I don't know what to tell you guys because I am so happy we got Saily back on board. I know you guys are getting ready to travel all around the world. You don't know what to do with your phones. Some of you are upgrading to various plans that charge you as high as 10 or 15 or 20 or even more per day just to keep your phone because you don't want to line up in the airport, replace your SIM. Well, Saily is here right now. You guys can download the Saily app right now and use code submission at checkout to get 15% off your first purchase. And by the way, and that link is below, but by the way, we are talking about ridiculously cheap rates for you guys to basically download an app on your phone, and then wherever you go in the world, use it like normal. I have to say, I'm a huge fan of this. I use this whenever I go to New Zealand, other parts of the world. This holiday season, go to Saily.com/submission, 15% off your first purchase. Try it today. I guarantee you, you won't want to use another eSIM. Saily.com, having you sorted. And now, boom, back to the program. I'd like to see like maybe a little package after he retires. I don't know, a nice little speech at the end. I feel like Cejudo deserves it. What do you think his ultimate legacy is? I mean, there's no doubt about it. When it comes to combat sports, including wrestling, he's one of the best to do it, right? Gold medals, UFC belts, 2 of them. But like you mentioned, he came back, he had a 3-fight skid. It's not the greatest for your legacy, but at the same time, we can't take away what he's achieved. So legacy-wise, he goes out there. If he does win against Talbot, what do you think the legacy is at the end of the day for Cejudo?
Certainly an important contributor to the sport in terms of, that 2008 Olympic team with Ben Askren, Daniel Cormier, Henry Cejudo. That was a game. That was a game with Steve Mocco, by the way, who's one of the top trainers over at ATT. Like these were important. This was an important moment in time in terms of what that team meant, but also like, as a representative of the wrestling community and that era. It's really, I think his legacy will partly be the athletic excellence that all is tied to that. One of the best smaller weight guys of all time, right? With the first flyweight bantamweight champ ever, right? That combo, putting that together, that's going to be an impressive thing that stands the test of time. So there's this pedigree of Olympic excellence into MMA excellence. That's all part of it. Lighter weight excellence as well. I think that the Triple C thing will probably not be super. I don't think that's built to last, for better or for worse, in terms of how he's remembered. I think people will remember it for the next few years, but in 10 years, there's really not going to be much memory of it. It's just not going to be a thing. So I just kind of look at his achievements, and they're very, very good. They're really good, but because he stepped away right at the prime, what they could have been, I think, limits the ceiling on. Again, it's a very high ceiling we're talking about here, but I don't think he maximized potential, which is crazy to say because he got an Olympic gold medal and two UFC weight class belts. But that just kind of tells you like what was available to this guy. He didn't do poorly by any stretch of the imagination, but it does feel like there was a big kind of what if those 3 years that he lost.
You know what's crazy? I was talking to a photo guy in Perth about, fighters, this and that. And I mentioned a couple of great champions. He had no idea who those people were. But then he's like, Alex Pereira, he's my favorite fighter of all time. I'd die if I meet. And I was like mentioning like all the greats that, you and me would just like die to meet, didn't it? So dude, that's the idea. Like 10 years from now,
that's going to be us. That's going to be us as soon as we stop doing this. Like,
I always think about that. Like, will I even know what's going on? By the way, look at this stretch right here. I feel like it's an underrated stretch. Reyes aside, Sergio Pettis, Demetrius Johnson, TJ Dillashaw, Reyes, and up the top there, Dominic Cruz. Not a bad little run for Henry Cejudo, right?
I attended years ago. The guy who gave Wilson Hayes, you called him Reyes, it's Hayes.
Sorry, Hayes.
It's okay. Wilson Hayes, the guy who gave him his black belt was Roberto Godoy. And Godoy was doing like I'm not even bullshitting, like a spine crank seminar. It was so fucking gnarly. And I got to attend that one. It was at the original like Nova MMA, which doesn't exist anymore, or maybe it's a different owner at this point. But anyway, it's a fun little moment in time. Wilson Hayes he was a good black belt. He actually could grapple his ass off, but
So you could break our spines, is what you're telling me.
Roberto Godoy could. I don't think I remember much from that thing.
I don't know if that's like a chiropractor seminar thing, like a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu fighter teaching you techniques.
It was like learning. You know how catch wrestling is like a lot of pain holds that they're a little bit meaner. It felt like that. It felt like a catch wrestling seminar, which they could do some stuff for you.
I would love to see it in that seminar, just having some greenhorn putting the move on you because you got to practice it, and you just being annoyed at him because he's putting it on wrong. I'd love to see in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu just people cranking your neck for no reason. Your reaction.
No, my neck is so fucked up.
That happening. Yeah, me too. That's why I would love to see it. All right, there it is. There, Luke Thomas. Of course, Morning Combat dropped their pregame preview a little earlier with Jed Meshew. A must-watch, another cracking episode. That's up on Morning Combat now. Of course, you and BC will have one more episode later this week, and then also the live watch-along. Right, last pay-per-view of the ESPN era. Like you mentioned, it's a cool card to check out. people can check you out live as you watch it and react to it.
That's right.